Welcome everyone. George, it's nice to see you, however virtually it is. How are you doing today?
Hi, Cameron. Great. Nice to see you.
Just want to welcome
here we
all
are,
of
another
our
live show.
Yeah, we got the live show going on. So welcome to Live at Epiphan. It's Thursday at 3 p.m. And we have a very special episode lined up today with a special guest who has joined us all the way from Texas down in the United States. And today we're going to be talking about remote video production tips and tricks. And our guest today is Anthony Burokas. Now, Anthony, hopefully I pronounced your name there right, Anthony. Anthony is, he's been in the industry, he said, for a couple of years, like 20 years or so. And so he's seen the full gamut of technology all the way from beta to 4K and beyond. And Anthony, we're very happy to have you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. And I'm interested to see where the conversation goes today.
Well, we first got word of you, Anthony, through streaming media because you gave a talk. What was it called? How to be a remote production ninja. Have I got the title right?
Yeah, it comes from several years ago. I did Audio Ninja and something else when I actually spoke at Streaming Media West. And editors there are kind of like, ooh, we kind of like that ninja thing. Can you do a ninja thing
More
about
ninjas.
streaming? Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's great.
But no, it's worked out well. And, although, in this age and with everything that's happening around the world, it's actually kind of interesting that we're all trying to shift. We're all learning new technologies. We're all, it's like taking on new things that we haven't done before. And, I would promote, the Ninja Talk for streaming media in various, production forums. And, there's always somebody that knows more and there's always somebody that knows less. And it was kind of interesting to get called out by people who are like, well, who are you asking questions if you're the ninja? I says, yeah, okay, I'm a ninja, but I know enough,
Sure.
but I don't know everything. Nobody can know everything.
Well, tell us, where do you come from? Where did you start? You're doing remote productions now, but I'm guessing this is not your history. So what's your story?
Well, remote production for me, it's remote or local or, it's all kind of the same. I've been doing broadcast television production, multi-camera, live switch production for many years. I did a cooking series on PBS for about 15 years. It was called Flavors of America, and then we transitioned it to Healthy Flavors. It was available to all the PBS stations nationwide, but we were producing in Philadelphia. And we would do, 23 shows in a week. So we had, we built a set and we would set up our cameras and we would switch it live and we would go to tape. Or at one point, we were one of the first people to actually do live recording to hard drive. So we had a broadcast switcher that went to a DV cam deck that had the FireWire option that went to an iMac that had a FireWire. So we went in FireWire, through Final Cut, out to a hard drive, and we literally filled up 12 external hard drives with all the shows that we filmed that way. And it saved us from having to digitize all the tape, but it was this big expense because at the time, 60 gigabytes was as big a drive as you could get. So that's kind of dating me, I guess. But, it's all the same. Whether, where does the signal go is different, but the process of multi-camera live is pretty much the same. Although remote, like we're doing right now, is very different than having full control of all the cameras and all of the lighting and all of the audio. You don't have that. You're always relying on the guest's camera and the guest's audio, and you cross your fingers and you hope. And then you have the internet as your gateway, and you cross your fingers and you hope.
So you were doing all of these multi-camera shows. What's now? What's your world like now? Who's calling you for what kind of events?
Well, this year's has been the big shift. At the January, starting last year and into January, we had done a bunch of on-location sporting events, and then had begun talks to do this monthly arena-based CrossFit type competition. So it would move from stadium to stadium across the country every month, and because it was a standardized competition, it would be you could rank and carry that rank as you go through, as opposed to like the outdoor events are different all the time. It's raining here, it's freezing there, it's hot here. So different strengths for different people. If it's indoors and everything is standardized, then whoever's number one is really number one. And we were gearing up for that, in which case we were going to have a full NDI. We were going to have like 5 cameras, a couple robo heads to switch it live and stream it and everything. And we were talking about how can we get, sort of like they do on NASCAR and things like that. How do we get like attached data to the people, like know whose pulse rate is high and things like that as we track them around the stadium. We were looking at doing that. And then, of course, COVID hit and everything that was in person just vanished. It just went nowhere.
Yeah, Cameron, I'm sure, will tell you a similar story because we were doing all these in-studio stuff, and now our whole world is this remote land.
Well, and even in the opportunities that we have for streaming from our location in Ottawa, there's a lot of paperwork that we have to worry about and proximities, and we have to get permission from our health and safety team, and it's just, these are issues that I never ever thought I would be encountering in my career. And you may be aware of this, but Jurassic World Dominion just wrapped, and I think they had 250,000 COVID tests on site, or nearly 500,000 that they did on site, on location, and they had a COVID compliance officer, and this is becoming a thing in person production now, which is just absolutely wild.
Yeah, there's still, there are certain standards that people are setting for the larger productions, but in terms of like a small corporate shoot, I just did an awards ceremony, and the decision was, well, let's put the cameras where the host is, and then anything else we need to bring in, we'll bring in remotely. But this way we can control that situation. And we had a good location, so we had a screen behind him. And when he did all the introductions and nominations and everything, that all happened live in front of the camera. So he was 20 feet over there.
On stage in an event space, or were they doing it from like their living room?
We did it from an office complex where we had a good location. It was like, we had asked a couple different partners. It's like, could we do it here? Could we do it here? Could we do it here? Good looking locations.
Mm-hmm. And had you had experience with that before? Like, had someone ever said, we want to do an event where nobody's in the same room except for like you and the people on stage? Like,
not a problem. Now all of a sudden it's sort of like, okay, we have 2 people, and we have them 20 feet apart. So we have the MC and we have the award winner, the award announcer. They're both in the same room, but they were in different parts of the same room.
Okay.
So that everybody had and then our production table was 30 feet away where we could see what was going on, but we were still removed from them. And then we're all wearing masks, and they're in front of the camera, so they're not, but they're very distant.
You must be doing events as well, like we're doing here, where it's just pure remote. Right? Like everybody's in different parts of the world.
That's been where things have really transitioned to, because like, I have lots of different tools at my disposal, and when everything turned to be remote, I was looking like, okay, well, I need to bring in remote into my kit. It's primarily I was using a TriCaster for corporate gear and corporate production, and it was like, well, how can I get multiple people into the TriCaster? And it was like, well, if you have a computer that's, they can come in via Skype, and then you NDI that into the TriCaster as an input, and then you could just take that and multiply it out. And I'm like, well, then it's getting kind of complex. And then there's like, Wirecast is out there, and vMix is out there, and there's a bunch of software solutions. OBS is out there as well. And I looked at them, and I think I made a decision pretty quick without having like downloaded every tutorial, every demo and used every single one of them for a week to figure out the absolute best thing. I made like a gut decision, and I went with vMix because of the fact that at the highest level, it has 8 remote inputs, and they come directly in, and it's just a web link. And I think this is going to work out, and it has worked out very well. Almost all of my stuff has been on vMix, all my remote work. And other than like bandwidth issues at the sending end, which, no matter what tool I use is out of my control, It doesn't matter what software or hardware package. I could have a TriCaster with a TalkShow 4000 and have, $15,000 worth of gear sitting on the table. But if the caller has a really bad internet connection, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're totally at the mercy of that bandwidth and what the internet connection is. So, Anthony, it sounds like you made a decision pretty quick. How long would you say it actually took you to refine your whole remote production system since after you decided to get in on vMix? Or maybe you're still refining it right now?
Well, vMix is like a TriCaster works for somebody who's coming from a broadcast background because it's designed like a broadcast piece of hardware. Here's your program bus, here's your preview bus, here's this. Everything's got a position and it's fixed. And then if you want to do a 2x2, well, you have to go into an ME, you build that, and then you bring that down into your main bus. If you want to do 4 across, you have to use 2 MEs and bring those both down in your main bus. vMix opens up and it's got 2 empty inputs in it, and there's nothing. There's like nothing there. And you have, like all the software packages, OBS, Wirecast, are all, you build what you need. It's not pre-configured. You can buy templates. You could buy, packages that are like, oh, well, here's a setup for 8 across with backgrounds and everything. You just populate with your sources. But it was definitely a learning curve to be like, oh, well, I have to build input 1, build input 2, build input 3, build input 4, and then I have to build the multi-views, and then I have to, assign them to buttons and things like that so that I can easily get to them. I'm not trying to mouse click everything. And, it takes I would say a couple weeks of getting up to speed, depending upon the complexity of things, because I partnered with a local arts group, and we did, we did a series of, here's one. We did a series of events where they were remote because they wanted to keep in front of people, and they would do interviews. That's Tammy, the host, and this is the author of The Monuments Men, and we got to interview him and talk about the book and the movie and everything and how art is important, which is, the focus of the Frisco Arts Association. And these were both remotes coming into me. So it's all like, okay, well, I have 2 here, and then it was 3, and then it was 4. So you really have to get up to speed really quick on how to manage not just the people, but the layouts and all the content. Because a show like this one, I had, I think, 120 different pieces of artwork and content, and, photographs of the different monuments men, photographs of finding the artwork, photographs of the artwork itself, and, just the whole cataloging history of everything. So managing a show like that is really hard in terms of knowing where every little piece of artwork is. So it's a challenge in terms of managing content, I say.
You have to manage all the content, and of course you have to manage the guests. What's the biggest challenge about your getting guests ready? Obviously the network, none of us can help that. If I have a bad network, you can't help me there. But what else would you run into when you're trying to onboard guests into a production?
It's this, people have done Zoom. People have done Zoom and Skype and FaceTime and whatever. And for that, it's sort of like come as you are. So if the camera is really low, looking up your nose, people don't care. If you're walking around in a dark room, people don't care. But because we're all TV producers, we care a lot. We're all like, I want you to look good. I want the camera to be right at you and not super close where your hand gets distorted. I want a good shallow depth of field. I want good lighting. So you've got, a light coming here and you've got a nice backlight and everything. I want it to look and sound good with an external microphone. And so there's no feedback. I want you to wear headphones and things like that. And these are all hurdles for a lot of people who are remote.
Do they appreciate it though? When you tell them that, are they like, what do you mean? I look fine. What's your problem? I can hear me.
I think when they look at the finished product and they're like, oh, wow, okay, I see what you were saying about that. Having it up there does make a big difference, because most of the time when I talk on my, Teams conferences, my camera's down here and, I don't care. So when I do these things, different people will have, somebody's using their phone, somebody's using an iPad, and I want to make sure that they all have the same color balance. So that's an actual event. This is the Marketer of the Year event that we were talking about, and here's the presenter. He dressed up. He got a nice bow tie and everything. He's in front of this 70-inch screen where we projected, like, this is the categories and everything. So it had a nice look to it. We brought in lighting. So he has a nice big front light and a back light, or a hair light, or not hair light. And
we have experience with the no hair light here at Epiphan Video.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
So, but I'm saying it's like when I think when people see what you're doing and they take a moment to like understand, they really appreciate. I think like you said, they do appreciate that my goal is to make you look awesome. I even created a page with helpful tips on the Stream4us website that is called How to Look Awesome. And it goes through like, wear earbuds so that there's no audio feedback and it doesn't get garbled. Put a desk lamp in front of you or put windows in front of you shining so that it's not bright behind you and you're in the dark. Pick a quiet room like your bedroom or something like that, And all of that really helps to make for a good, polished production where the audience can pay attention to the person speaking and not whatever else is going on.
Yeah, those additional elements can be very distracting for the viewers, and it can obviously take away from the content. And you can set up in a closet, right? And your clothes inside the closet will create some baffling, and of course, just making sure that your family is somewhat aware of what you're doing, so they don't come looking for an outfit. Now, you've talked a little bit about your setup and using vMix. Do you ever use any collaboration tools like Zoom when you're bringing in guests? Any video conferencing tools like that?
You have to be absolutely aware and savvy with everything these days because everybody is using everything that they need, that they have. It doesn't matter whether it's Skype, WhatsApp, FaceTime, you name it. People are going to want to use it. And, we actually have used, or for my clients, they have used Zoom as the distribution. So we'll have people come in to vMix, but then we ship it out to Zoom for distribution so that they can control who comes in, who can see it, who can comment. It's a very nice platform in terms of controlling the audience. And at the same time, I've done other things where we did an open mic night and we had, I think, 18 different artists to perform. But at the same time, we wanted to have title slides and all this other content. So we actually used Zoom as the source and scraped that feed and brought it into a production tool where we added, a nice slate for every single artist before they came on. Cool. During their introduction. While they were on, we put their Instagram tags and their YouTube tags and, information about them. And then we pushed that to YouTube. That was, again, for the Frisco Arts Association. So that was this big open mic night, but we used Zoom as the source, A, because it was easy, B, because we could have all 18 people on there, which definitely exceeds the input limit of most video production tools.
And that's the real benefit of using a tool like Zoom is you can bring a lot of people in. It maintains a really positive level of fidelity as well so that folks can interact with each other and actually talk. And, as you're aware, obviously, and our viewers might be aware, we use Zoom as our back channel. So we're doing our feeds via SRT, and then we use Zoom for our back channel chat. Have you looked into SRT at all, and do you have any perspective on that new video protocol?
SRT is beautiful, and there's really no arguing that SRT is a beautiful, fantastic solution for delivering high quality video from point A to point B, and I look forward to the opportunity where I can do something and really leverage SRT. But thus far, most of my work has been with collaborative work where you need that immediacy and the delay in SRT, which is what gives it its robustness, is something that becomes prohibitive when I need to have people having a discussion. So I have, really relied on the vMix call direct ingest, which has a very low latency. However, it's not as robust as SRT in maintaining a really high quality image and sound from point A to point B because you have the lower latency. It's a trade-off. Do you want the lowest latency or do you want the highest quality? Everybody's going to fall somewhere else. I chose to be here. Somebody else may choose to be there. Like for this show, we're using Zoom, but the content is all going in via SRT. So we've got the low latency for our actual discussion, but the actual production has the high production quality via SRT. So there's a third hand that I don't have, and that's called ease of use. And, trying to juggle all three pieces then, when you're dealing with people in the industry, it's a little easier to say, okay, we're going to be in Zoom and we're also going to be using SRT from the same production thing, and let's set that up. Whereas I am in the midst of doing a medical conference that can't happen, of course. And so we are interviewing over 32 different nuclear radiology scientists from around the world. I've done Korea, Japan, Finland, South Africa. We're going to do Argentina. I mean, it's just literally around the world, every different time zone, and trying to get everyone to connect in a way that was simple, but could also handle whatever curveballs they threw at us. Was like, well, we could do this in vMix, but I have to build whatever we're going to need before we need it. So I kind of have to know what I don't know in order to have it ready. And I talked to the organizer. I said, listen, I would much rather do this in StreamYard, where it's all in the cloud, where we're able to not just do 1080, but we're able to handle, like, if they need to come in from a different device, if they need to do something else. And sure enough, the Japanese contingent was supposed to be 2 presenters, 1 set of slides. And both presenters were going to connect. It turned out then it was like, no, it's just going to be 1 presenter and his slides. Okay, great. When they start dialing in, there's 2 presenters and 2 pairs of slides.
That was like this call.
And because of the regulations in Japan, they literally had to be in different rooms in the building.
Yeah.
So they couldn't see or hear each other. So it was really reliant upon the fact that they can see and hear each other through my connection. So again, low latency. And the first person spoke, he gave his part of the thing. He did 5 slides and says, now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Su. Dr. Su came on, and then I brought his slides. It's like, none of that was prepared for. But thankfully, it's sort of like I knew I needed to be ready, considering what's going on around the world. I need to be ready for the unexpected.
This is why they hire you, Anthony.
I mean,
this is your bread and butter, right? Like,
yeah,
to be nimble and be able to switch out like that at the last minute. Like, that's the whole industry.
To make the judgment calls. Yeah. I mean, but even the best laid plans of mice and men, as they say. I mean, we had our very first speaker came on, and I think it was 45 to 50 minutes. We could not get him to connect his screen. Actually, he did share the screen at one point, but then he shared the wrong screen. And he's like, I am presenting. I said, no, we're looking at the presenter screen, not the actual presentation screen. We're looking at the wrong one. Oh, okay. So he turned it off, and then he could never get it back on again.
So how do you like to do slides? Like, how would you, if you go back in time for this thing, how would you set it up in advance?
I would have them do their slides. That's every person I know who has slides wants to do them themselves, and I'm happy to let them do it. With vMix, that's actually a very hard proposition. It's not designed to share 2 streams from this one source computer. It's not designed to do that. And then also, when you share a screen, let's just say I have my camera and I'm on, and now I'm going to share my slides. Well, now I can't see the other screen with the video. So there's a screen management issue, a layering issue. So that throws a lot of people off too. But some people are more savvy with it, and some people know, I could share just the application window and bring that in, and then I can still see the video and know what slide is up and how that's working. But in terms of sharing the slides, I prefer they do it if they can. If not, give me the slides, and then I could use any number of remote clicker applications, or you could just use those 5 words that say, and on the next slide.
The cue, the audio cue.
Yeah.
Get those audibles in there.
There's the wink
and I'm like,
too. They can give you the old turn the slide.
It's not. I find it as a producer. This is not terribly difficult, and it actually mentally guides the viewer to I'm done with this slide. We're going to be moving to the next slide.
Like as opposed to just I'll have to want to go back to another slide later on because I'm like, I remember something from a minute ago. Let me just pop back here, and it's nice to be able to bounce around. So I know that need for control.
Yeah. Right. So yes, and that's why I love, because that has happened many times. It says, da, 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 and here you can see this, and da, 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 and in this slide, what I'm talking about, because they refer to each other, they wanted to give the backstory and tie it to the new thing, and you can't do that when I'm doing the slides. And we just did one today where, because they were having issues with their connection from. It's the small country right next to India, to the right.
Fiji?
Between India and China. No. Belarus. I think it's Belarus. So anyway, she had a bad internet connection, but her phone worked great. Actually had a beautiful picture too. So she used her phone for herself, and then we handed the slides off to the event organizer. He ran the slides, but we were having this weird alignment thing, so he converted them all so he could use them in Google Sheets or whatever. And of course, when you convert PowerPoint to anything else, it changed the fonts. And one of them that I thought was a flower, we found out later it was a pie chart.
Whoa.
That's
So we literally had to contact them. Listen, can we do this again? And we'll do it from PowerPoint. And we had the additional time, because now we had the time to prepare for it. We had a computer with PowerPoint to share this, and everything worked out great. But it's trying to handle things on the fly, like, oh, quick, okay, well, send me the slides and I'll run them from here, type of thing. That's the biggest challenge in remote, is the fact that because everybody is so accustomed to Zoom and video chat, they think it just happens, and they don't understand that there's still time that needs to be taken to produce things, to make them look a certain way. It doesn't happen magically.
Well, and even the way that Zoom will change your entire desktop configuration when you start to do a screen share. So that's something that we experience with our presenters and when we're doing remote production work is you need to see what this is going to look like now. Because when you hit share screen in Zoom, it's going to change everything. And you're not going to know where the window was that you just had. And you're not going to know where to look, and your mute button is and your comments are. So it's really smart to get that all laid out in advance. And then you have the time to sort it out and figure it out. Now, we do have just a few more minutes left in the show. And we've asked our viewers to let us know if they have any questions for you. But I do have a quick question, Anthony, or maybe not a quick question. It'll be a little bit of a roundup on your part. But what are your top 3 remote production tips that you can share with us and share with our viewers today?
I think the key thing is to wear headphones, because wearing headphones makes sure that the audio that the microphone picks up is just the person speaking, not room reverberation. Well, a little bit of room reverberation, but not the audio coming back from the program. So if you get multiple people talking, like in a panel event, that can cause a lot of garbling with the noise, with the cancellation in it. Good headphones. And I think pick a good location where there's light. That is a key thing too, because a lot of times people are like, I've got a window coming in from the side and the sunlight is just pounding, half their face and everything else is dark. It's like, can you do the shutters or blinds or something?
And even then with natural lighting, if you're depending on natural lighting, you're doing a rehearsal at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday, and we're going to be going live at 9:00 on a Sunday, and it's like, okay, well, the lighting is not going to be the same.
Yeah, we did that too. We did our tech check, and everything was great. And then when we go to the show, the sunlight is pounding on the wall behind the person, causing this dark, front, because the camera automatically irises down. And, again, we're not dealing with producers who say, well, let me just go in and set manual settings on the camera. But, it's important to, go through the settings. And then I've also got, I tell people, listen, if you're going to connect in vMix, here's the buttons you need to know. Nice. And then the show we're doing now is all in StreamYard. This is how to share your screen. People, this is the one thing they always miss right here. It's like you click on the share screen. You actually have to click on your screen before you get the share button, because a great percentage of people are like, okay, I've got this window, but the share button, I can't click on it. Well, yeah, because it's not clear. It says choose what you'd like to share. Well, you actually have to click on the screen, and then you can click the share button, and then you're not done yet. You then have to click hide on the alert that stays on the screen to let you know you're sharing your screen. So we don't want that there on the person's PowerPoint presentation. So we have to get them to hide the alert. So there's 4 steps, and then you're done. So there's a lot of like tiny little technical nuances to making a remote person, to make them look awesome. And because we're doing this thing internationally, it actually came back to me and says, well, I'm going to have people in Japan looking at this. I'm going to have people in Bangladesh looking at this. So I actually added a translate link on the top of my page so that they could look at it in their own language. And, it's like, it's that, going back to what George says, it's like, are you done? No, we're always learning. We're always experiencing something new. I'm always being informed by what I'm doing. And I look at that and say, okay, that worked well, but what could I have done to make it work better or to streamline the process so that the next time I need to do it, because I did not have StreamYard on this page before I started working on this international medical conference, because I thought, wow, StreamYard is super easy. But yet there's still technical issues, tiny little nuances that can trip people up. And because they may be, nuclear scientists, but they're not StreamYard scientists,
Totally.
So they know a whole lot about that, not a lot about this. I know a lot about this, but I know nothing about nuclear medicine. I'm telling you that. Nothing.
You haven't absorbed all that?
I know a little bit more now. But still, it's a lot. Most of it's over my
We
head.
won't quiz you on your nuclear medical knowledge. We were going to, but
Well, that's the whole second
Cameron-
half of our question sheet here. It's all on neutrons and neurons. Is that I don't know. That's not a.
that's where we're at. That's where our knowledge is at.
We actually do have one question from Romar. Romar is one of our weekly viewers, and he's asking if you have any recommendations for software SRT for remote speakers. Now, we did talk to Anthony a little bit earlier, and Anthony is actually using vMix for his connection via SRT. So, Anthony, maybe you can reflect a little bit on your experience with using vMix for the first time to send an SRT stream.
SRT out of vMix works really great. However, again, it comes down to what type of complexity do we want to put on the remote guest? There are various software packages out there that could run on a cell phone or something like that, so you don't have to require a desktop or something. And that would allow a remote guest to connect into your setup. And then, of course, coming from a phone also has the added advantage that you don't have to punch a hole through your firewalls and things like that to get out of whatever building you're in. Because if somebody works for a corporation, well, those ports for that transmission might not be open. So it doesn't matter. And as a guest, they're not going to have that permission. Oh yeah, let me just hack the corporate's firewall so that I could do this stream. No, that's not going to work. So very often, having somebody use their personal device and run an app on their phone would be very good. I'm just going to, be upfront. I am not the SRT expert, so I'm not going to try and pretend that I know everything about things that I don't. I know a lot, but I also know there's a lot that I don't know.
And there's a lot that you don't know that you don't know. And and actually for our productions, Romar, we often use Rivet. So Rivet is a software-based SRT application. It's from LiveX out of New York. And Anthony, I'll send you a link to that one. It's really useful, and it's actually very user-friendly as well, where the production team can set up all the details in advance, and then you get a code that you can input into the app. And so it really keeps the bar low. And Rivet actually has some really cool features for a return feed as well within the app. So for a user, it appears very much like a FaceTime or a Zoom call, where you can see that program back that's coming out. And with some fancy channeling and mix-minusing, you can accomplish some mix-minus to have two-way communication as well. And as we know with mix-minus, when you add more and more sources with different latencies, it just gets really complicated really fast. And of course, with a hardware encoder or a software encoder, the more channels you have, the more, of course, that eats up on your CPU.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually one of the key things that attracted me to the vMix call solution is the fact that, I think OBS and Wirecast would be the same, is the fact that it does the mix-minus automatically. So you're not having to manually, try and arrange buses and things like that. And then if anybody has seen, I write for Streaming Media Magazine, a streaming media producer, and we did a video called, as Georgia says, the Remote Ninja. And one of the key things is we talked about how to leverage vMix and use different buses so that all the callers can come in and they're part of one bus to go out to program, but they're listening on a different bus. And in one setup, we have it as bus G, so that we call it the green room. You know, so bus G is what goes back to all of the guests, and I can talk to G, and all of them can hear me on G, but my voice is never part of the program. So it can be, you know, we could be in the middle of the program, we're running a video, and I can tell them 2 minutes to go, 1 minute to go, coming at you in 30 seconds, and I'm informing everybody in the show, but my voice is never part of the program while their microphones are. So that's a very, very handy tool to have that back channel built into the same software that's right in front of you, so you're not having to leverage multiple pieces.
Yeah, that does make it nice and simple. Anthony, this has been great. We've been trying to get together for a little while now, so thanks for joining us today. But before we go, tell people, like, where can they...
I appreciate the invitation.
Where can people find you?
Right here. No, I'm kidding.
After this show.
After this show. Well, the website is Stream4us. And that is, you know, where I do my business is at. And then also I publish in Streaming Media Producer. And then if people are tech geeks, I have a channel on YouTube. No, that's you guys.
The dangerous game of Russian roulette on the
channel on YouTube.
There. I like it.
Yep. I have a tech channel called AIBA Tech Thoughts, and AIBA is the parent company that, you know, I also own a studio in Frisco as well. So this is where some tech videos go that don't make it to Streaming Media Producer, where I might be testing something, I'm just reviewing something small, and I just put it up here. And this channel is, you know, not huge. I'm not, you know, like some of the big companies out there, but it's got a pretty good following, and I get a lot of good feedback from people who watch it.
Cameron,
well, thank you again,
everybody.
Yeah, thank you again for joining us today, Anthony. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you're watching this video live, please make sure to check the comment section for a few links that we mentioned today. And we're going to add a few of those links to the VOD as well. But Anthony, I just want to thank you again so much for joining us. And for the viewers that are going to be returning with us next week, we're going to be coming back next week at 3 p.m. Thursday as usual, and we're going to be talking about live streaming music rights with our guest from Warner Chappell. Yeah, so Anthony, that is
suit for that one.
Yeah, you're going to need to bring a notepad and a pen, because that is going to be a complicated one. But we're looking forward to meeting with Ben next week. But Anthony, thanks again so much, and of course, make sure to like and subscribe on Anthony's YouTube channel, and do the same on ours if you haven't already.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.